Moikka moi! It's Riikka Kovasin here with another part of the gesso series. I started with white gesso, and in this episode I'm tackling clear gesso. If you looked the video yesterday, you saw me doing a collage using a soft body gel medium as my adhesive and then painting the layer using white gesso. But as these gessos are acrylic based, I can use them also to adhere. Disclaimer though, there's one clear gesso I've used that actually didn't have this property. It wouldn't adhere anything. But at least this one works just fine. And the advantage of using clear gesso instead of white is that it doesn't alter the colors. So if you want these vintage book tones to be saved as they are, then clear gesso will do that. Whereas if you add white gesso, they will be toned down and made more paler, and some of the writing might be lost. So I'm just painting a layer of gesso underneath, then placing a piece of the book paper on top and painting another layer on top. So this is kind of killing two birds with one stone, because you get the adheration and priming at the same time. Clear gesso, like many other gel type mediums, is white when it's in the jar, but then it dries clear. As gesso is a primer, it kind of seals the surface and blocks the colorant from getting or bleeding into the paper or through the paper. So you can use that quality as a resist. In this case, I'm using a stencil and a sponge and just adding the gesso through the stencil lightly. But as gesso is a primer, so it's also good for colorants to get a grip on. So the resist pattern is kind of subtle. It's not like you've done an embossed resist, for example. The color will still bleed to the paper, but it creates a lovely effect. After drying, I then add some dye sprays on top, and they will saturate the paper, so it will be colored through and through. But the places where there's clear gesso are not as colored as the rest of the paper. You can see the same kind of situation with the tag also, because I'm able to move the colors around the tag rather than it soaking all the colors immediately. So you kind of have more playtime or open time if you use a layer of clear gesso underneath. Then I dry the paper with the resist pattern, and you probably can see the pattern emerging a little bit better. I then use the same stencil to make some patterning to the tag itself and kind of use the resist effect as well, because like I said, the layer of gesso prevents the colorant from bleeding into the paper. I'm able to lift the colors really easily up through the stencil and thus create this kind of floral or leaf pattern. But gesso works on top of non-absorbing surfaces as well, because if you try to add watercolor on top of metal or plastic, that probably won't work at all, because the medium isn't meant for it. It is meant for being absorbed into the fibers or paper or canvas or something, but you can use gesso to create a more absorbing surface or give the colorant something to grab onto. If you don't want to change the color of the embellishment or whatever you're working on, then clear gesso is your thing. Naturally, you can use the same thing with black or white gesso as well, only that they have pigments in them, so they will change the color of the embellishment. So after adding a layer of clear gesso to the metal flower, I'm able to use the dye spray to color it pink. Just remember that dye sprays are translucent and watercolors as well, so the darkness of the flower will show through, and also that gesso will turn the embellishments matte. Again, here's the finished tag with all the gesso layers and elements and some detailed shots. Thank you for watching today. I'm hoping I'll see you tomorrow when there's the black gesso episode. Bye for now.